So I did say earlier on in the week that this is quite a big week for Labour bills, and essentially a lot of the stuff that they said in their manifesto they want to get done. And this employment's right bill, let me stress this. This is the biggest expansion of workers' rights in over a decade. Massive step forward. Does this go far enough for some of the unions? Of course, some are disappointed that it doesn't go far enough in some areas. But as I've always said, sometimes you take a step forward, and hey, any future government is going to find it incredibly hard to undo some of these rights. Incredibly hard to undo some of these rights. I also bring up continually that when you look at all these new Labour MPs that are in Parliament at the moment, many of them come from union backgrounds. So expect in the future to have more bills, more stuff like this, pushing forward more employment rights. Because as a clear example, look at what happened when the last government tried on 2 or 3 occasions to get rid of the EU Working Time Directive. Now, obviously, post-Brexit, that became part of UK law. But multiple Conservative administrations wanted to get rid of it. But every time they made moves to get rid of it, they became afraid of the backlash that they would unleash if they tried to remove it. Not only that, instant win for Labour, because all they do is, okay, well, if we get elected in, that becomes law again. Like, we will bring back that law. So they were terrified of undoing those things. And it's the same for all rights. Even the renters reform bill that is coming in. Yes, I agree. I've said before, doesn't go far enough in some areas. But some of these things that it does bring in, going to be incredibly hard for any future administration to take away. So we're going to go over what some of these things that this new employment rights bill is going to bring in, and you're just going to see how good some of this stuff really is, because it's been a lot of stuff that unions, workers, and a lot of lefties have been asking for a long time, and it is here. Now, of course, as I said, doesn't go far enough, I think, in some places again, but where we have made these gains, they are going to be incredibly hard to take away. So this should be a moment of celebration for a lot of people on the left who are pro-union. However, again, some people, any excuse to attack Labour. But there you go. Anyway, so we're going to go into this, but before we do that, please do remember to click the like, click the share button, the Patreon page down below, the Buy Me a Coffee link where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there is the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. So this is on the Guardian site, and the first one is his day one rights. So workers will qualify for protection against unfair dismissal from day one, a benefit for over 9 million people. 9 million people. So when anyone ever says that, oh, Labour has done nothing for the working classes, no, they've brought in protection against unfair dismissal, which was a benefit for over 9 million people. Previously, of course, employers must have been at their place of work for at least 2 years now in order to qualify. There will also be day one rights for paternity leave and unpaid parental leave. Maternity leave is already a day one right, and a full review of all parental leave rights is, of course, promised alongside the bill. An extra 30,000 fathers or partners will then now be brought into scope for paternity leave, while an additional 1.5 million parents will gain flexibility, with unpaid parental leave becoming a right from day one. There will also be a requirement for employers to establish a policy for bereavement leave. So you cannot tell me right off the bat that is not good. Like, that is a win. That is a massive win right there for workers across the UK. Sick pay. There will now be universal entitlement to sick pay from the first day of illness for employees. Workers will get rights to sick pay from day one than from day four. Statutory sick pay is £116 a week and can be paid for up to 28 weeks as long as employees now is earning at least an average of £123 a week. The government will say this will now be strengthened by removing the lower earnings limit for all workers, though the rate could be lower for workers who aren't eligible for sick pay at all. Again, I think that's all good. I think bringing that in is fantastic. And bear in mind, you are seeing businesses going, oh no, if you bring these in, it's gonna hurt growth. None of these things hurt growth. All they do is protect workers constantly. So, probation. The government will consult on a statutory probation period for new hires. Employees will still be able to claim for unfair dismissal, but ministers say this means there will now be a lighter touch approach to letting an employee go during the probation period if the role is not working out. The probation period will be consulted on and introduced in autumn of 2026 to coincide with the enforcement now of the new rights. The government now favours a limit of at least 9 months, lengthened after pressure, of course, from businesses, which caused some disquiet amongst trade unions, which had asked for a limit of 6 months. Again, that can be shortened in the future to 6 months. I don't see why not. If it proves successful, why then not bring it to 6 months? 9 months, okay. It's what? 3 extra months than unions had wanted. But I think still overall, that's still a good win for unions. Yeah, not as much as they wanted, but sometimes you're going to compromise, Sometimes you're going to compromise. But overall, still, this part of the bill, very good. Overall, very, very good. The other one, 0-hour contracts. So more than 1 million people are on 0-hour contracts will now gain guaranteed working hours if they want them. Excellent. So those workers, of course, along now with those on low-hour contracts, will also have the right to guaranteed hours contract if they work regular hours now over a defined period. So you could start on a 0-hour contract and end up then with a guaranteed hours contract. Many people who work 0-hour contracts are already in that position. But businesses have been exploiting 0-hour contracts for multiple reasons. So overall, again, I think that's good. I would like to, of course, see 0-hour contracts ended completely. I think there is still cause to keep them in like some areas and some industries. Even in Europe, they haven't completely banned 0-hour contracts, but there's all these kinds of things. Like I can't remember which country it is. You can only be on like a 0-hour contract for I think 6 months before you have to be then rolled into like a proper sort of contract. Again, I'd like to see something like that over here, but again, I think good advancement. I think good advancement on this. I think this is a very, very good advancement on this. So Labour's, of course, original proposal said it would have been at least 12 weeks. Employees who, of course, request employees who also can request to remain on 0-hour contracts if they find that is what they would prefer. Again, gives flexibility to employees. If they want to remain on 0-hour contracts, they can do. If they find that they are better in that guaranteed hours contract, then they can say, I want to work a guaranteed hours contract. Again, good for workers. Fire and rehire. Fire and rehire practices will be banned all in now but most the extreme circumstances, meaning that employers cannot sack employees and then rehire them now on worse terms and conditions. There will be carve-outs, however, a move that has caused some consternations from unions, but businesses at risk of complete collapse may be able to alter the terms and conditions if it is the difference between going bust. Okay, um, I like to end fire and rehire completely. I think that is good, but if you are, let's say, in a business potentially is going to go bust, but a business can do this to stay afloat. Again, not 100% sure how I feel about that, but if it does mean the difference between a business going bust, maybe. Again, again, I'm not really 100% sure how I feel about that myself, but if that is like the exception to fire and rehire, that only if the business is like about to go bust, then okay. Like I say, banned in all other circumstances, excellent, great, a protection that workers have long needed. But if it's going to be banned in most cases, and that is like the only carve out, then okay. Again, maybe something I can get behind. Again, not 100% sure how I sort of feel about that. But once again, big guaranteed workers' rights for workers. That is something definitely to celebrate. Flexible working. So, the law will change to make flexible working the default where practical. And action plans must be drawn up to address gender pay gaps and to support female employees through menopause. There will also now be stronger protections against dismissal during pregnancy and after returning to work from maternity leave. Again, I think that's fantastic. I think flexible working should absolutely be protected and included in stuff like this. It shouldn't just be down to businesses to say what flexible working is. I think having the government come in and say, okay, this is what flexible working is. You can do it. It's the default. Hey, that's fantastic. So, enforcement. So, this bill will establish an enforcement body called the Fair Work Agency. This will bring together all existing enforcement bodies, which will then also enforce the rights such as holiday pay. The remit of this new body is not likely to be fully clear until all the measures in the bill have been consulted on or enacted. So, excellent. Merging together enforcement bodies to help cover all this, to have a fair work agency. I think that's good. I think it's good to have like these sort of enforcement bodies. This is something that the Conservatives did not do or strategically underfunded so that then they could not do their job properly. I think that is very, very good. Minimum wage. The government plans to, of course, change the remit of the Low Pay Commission, so it must now take into account the cost of living when setting the minimum wage and remove all the age bands that set lower minimum wage for younger staff. It will mean a pay rise for hundreds of thousands of young workers. Again, fantastic, because you see this all the time of, oh yeah, that's minimum wage. Once you reach like, I don't know, 21 or something like that. But below that, if you're below that, maybe you're working as a student um, or whatever, you get less minimum wage than someone else who maybe does the exact same hours than you. So I think getting rid of that is fantastic. I think the Low Pay Commission now having to take account into the cost of living when setting the minimum wage, also fantastic as well. Genuinely, really, really good. So everything that we've seen so far, fantastic. Big advancement on workers' rights. Are the problems? Absolutely. Does go on to, things missing from the bill. So there was a thing about guidance, not legislation, the right to switch off, preventing employees from being contacted out of hours except exceptional circumstances. I really want that in the bill. But again, maybe something that can be addressed further down the line. Legislation to end pay discrimination, that's not there. Consultation to move towards a single status of a worker. That has been left out, but as it says here, that currently needs a longer consultation period to get it done. Again, so okay, if they're going to address it later down the line, fantastic. Um, of course, trade unions, workers' rights were a big part of the plans. So Rayner's, of course, lit into very different government departments to tell them not to enact the Tories' minimum level service bill, and the charges will now be made to other union restrictions enacted by the Tories. So already, the very restrictive measures that the Tories put in against trade unions, Angela Rayner has gone, yeah, just ignore the Tories' minimum level of service bill, and that there's no going to be changes made to any other union restrictions enacted by the Tories. Again, would like to have obviously seen them undone, but if Labour's just gone, we're not going to enforce any of those things, hey, that's good. But again, would like them to see them, gone completely. But hey, overall, very, very good. Very, very good indeed. Just like the renters reform bill, I think there's some areas where they could have gone further. There's the stuff, of course, that said they've got left out. Some of it's being, needs to take longer to sort of review. Okay, I get it. The right to switch off, definitely something that does need to be, I believe, looked at, especially for a lot of people in service industries. Absolutely needs to be looked at. But overall, I think relatively good. Very, very good. So let me know what you think down below. But overall, I think that's a massive win for many workers, a massive win for many, many workers. So let me know what you think down below. Please remember to click the like and the share button. And of course, we'll see you all next time.